Hi there, this is Rebecca Killian. I'm here to talk to you about the first conjugation. The example we're going to use for the first conjugation is the verb to love, amo, amare, amawi, amatus. And by the way, a conjugation is a family of verbs. So once you learn how to conjugate this verb, amo, amare, in the imperfect tense, you're going to be able to conjugate anything in the imperfect tense within the first conjugation or first family. And like I said, you guys have been selected to be the experts on the imperfect, which in some ways is the toughest. Okay, so I just want to familiarize you guys with a verb chart. Remember from maybe your high school language studies that verbs will have a person and number. They do in English and they do in Latin as well. First, second, or third person versus singular or plural in number. And these are the personal pronouns that we use in English to help us identify who is doing the action. And the way I teach my kids is I, you, he, she, it, we, y'all, they. If you say it fast enough, a bad word you will say I, you, he, she, it, we, y'all, they. If you say it fast enough, a bad word you will say. And while the Romans did have personal pronouns, I, for example, was ego, and that's how we get cool things like egotistical or alter ego. They didn't use the personal pronouns as frequently as we do. Instead, people often relied on looking at the personal endings at the end of a verb to figure out who was doing the action. So the Latin personal endings that you will see at the end of your imperfect verbs are OST, MUST, ISNT, sometimes M, and that's clutch here. You guys are the only tense today that will be dealing with this first person singular personal ending of an M. So again, those personal endings, OST, MUST, ISNT, sometimes M, correspond to our English personal pronouns. I, you, he, she, it, we, y'all, they. All right, let's move on. Let's figure out how to conjugate a first conjugation verb in the imperfect. Okay, so if you looked in a dictionary for the verb love, you would find these four words, these four principal parts: amo, amare, amawi, amatus. In order to conjugate in the imperfect tense, you will drop the re from this second principal part and add these endings. Bam, ba, spot. Bam, spot to spot. Bam, ba, spot. Bam, spot to spot. Again, cutting off that re, you have that ama stem, and then you're going to add bam, ba, spot. Here you go. Amabam, amabas, amabat, amabamus, amabatus, amabat. These macrons or long vowel marks are not required, but it's good to know that it's there. Sometimes it helps with pronunciation and especially helps in Latin poetry. Okay, this helps me remember my imperfect endings. Bam, ba, spot, bam, spot to spot. Imperfect sheep were singing all night long. Bam, ba, spot, bam, spot to spot. Imperfect sheep were singing all night long. And you get it? Were singing is an ongoing past action. And indeed, the imperfect is an ongoing past action. To be perfect in Latin literally means to be done through. So imperfect is something that isn't entirely complete. Let's look at how we would translate something like amabam. Okay, so again, ongoing. It's something that happens over time, habitually. I was loving working at Quizlet for 15 years. It's an ongoing feeling, okay? So there are lots of ways to translate an imperfect. Amabam can be translated as I was loving, I used to love, I kept on loving, I have loved for many years, or plain old I loved. I think it's always easiest just to translate it as I was loving, kind of a progressive or an ongoing past action. Amabas, you were loving, etc., etc. So when you guys are the experts in your groups, you can mention that there are lots of different ways to translate the imperfect as an ongoing past action, like I was loving, I used to love. But you could just emphasize that was loving is fine enough. Okay, help me conjugate. Woko, wokade, wokawi means to call. Again, we're going to cut off the RE from the second principal part and add bom, ba, spot, bom, spot, spot, imperfect, sheep are singing all night long. Let's look at it. Wokabam, wokabas, wokabat, wokabamos, wokabatus, wokabant. And if you were to translate wokabam, think about it. Did you get some of these? I was calling, I used to call, I kept on calling, I have called, or plain old I called. Look at me, I only wrote down this major one. All right, how about this verb? Habito, habitate, habitawi, habitatus means to live. Again, we've got bom, ba, spot, bom, usbatus, bont. We're going to cut off that RE, so we have the stem habita, and then we're going to add bom, ba, spot, bom, usbatus, bont. All right, how might we translate habitabam? I was living, I used to live, I kept on living, I have lived, I lived. Something that happened over time, many times, oftentimes, is when you're going to use the imperfect. Okay, you guys are experts in the imperfect tense at this point. You know that you cut off that RE from the infinitive or second principal part and add bom, ba, spot, bom, spot to spot. But just to double check that you're feeling good, you're going to get together with the other experts in the imperfect tense, and you are going to check for your understanding. Do you know what person and number are? What are those bom, ba, spot endings? And how might we conjugate and translate? All right, thanks for hanging out in this screencast, and I look forward to working with you more.